Hey friends, welcome to a special Saturday edition of Hot News. This is something that we're just kind of trying out to see if we can maybe put out some content on the weekend for you. But since tech news really only happens Monday through Friday, we're just going to be trialing a few things. So let me know what you think of this video down in those comments, because this is an experiment for us. We're not going to get rid of any of the hot news that we do Monday through Friday. This is just in bonus addition to that. And so today we're just going to review the news that came out over this past week and call it This Week in News, or Twin, because it's a double of what we already did. Do you get it? It's funny. So we're just going to go over the top headlines and stories that you may have missed from any episodes of Hot News this past week, and also maybe correct anything that's potentially come up since we talked about it in an initial episode. So sit back, relax, let's go over This Week in News while you enjoy your breakfast. Let's jump into talking about how there might be an RTX 3090 Super. New rumors are coming out about what could be a potential launch before the end of this year. 10,752 CUDA cores, 450 watts of power, 21 gigabit per second memory, an absolute beast of a card potentially coming out before the end of the year. But also what could be coming out sometime soon is regulators stepping in to make sure that Nvidia doesn't necessarily purchase ARM. UK regulators suggesting a phase 2 investigation because they believe that Nvidia controlling ARM could be bad for everybody. Staying on the GPU side of things, it looks like Intel's GPUs should have overclocking through their drivers at launch. Also, their super sampling technology, XESS, it shouldn't need any machine learning per game training and can just run based on libraries that are installed on device. AMD's next generation Zen 4 CPUs are all expected to have integrated GPUs in them. Some of them might have disabled iGPUs, but it should all be on die according to the latest leaks that are coming out. Samsung also showed off what is probably going to be the biggest stick of RAM you've ever seen, 512 gigabytes, 7.2 gigabits per second at 1.1 volts, consumes less power, has higher density, and runs stupid fast. This is essentially peak DDR5 here in 2021, and they expect to have it rolling out to server environments by the end of the year. GM this week announced that they're going to have to recall all Chevy Bolts that were ever made because they are all at danger of catching on fire, even including the brand new EUV that they launched this year. They all have to be recalled, and they don't know when they're going to be able to fix it because it's going to be dependent on LG getting their new batteries fixed. SpaceX announced that it has shipped over 100,000 Starlink terminals. Elon Musk tweeting that out, so it looks like a lot of people are getting space internet. And it looks like a lot of consumers are getting lost when it comes to purchasing SSDs. It's found by a Chinese outlet that Western Digital was replacing some of its flash memory, which reduced the performance of its SLC cache. Western Digital responded on the 26th saying that they updated the product data sheet, but for greater transparency going forward, if we make a change to an existing internal SSD, we commit to introducing a new model number wherever any related public specifications are impacted. This is exactly the type of response that we want to see from a company. If you get called out by the public for doing something that you're just trying to hide behind the scenes, just let us know, because in case you need to do this for legitimate reasons, you can at least inform your consumer base. It also came out this week that for their consumer base, Samsung has the ability to remotely disable their TVs. This is in response to some looting that happened in South Africa, with them announcing that they are going to remotely disable the TVs if they ever so connect to the internet. That revelation seemed to get the biggest response out of all of the comments that we've had here on Hot News this week, because it seems like people don't like the fact that Samsung would be able to do anything to your TV, especially after you're sold it. Samsung also getting called out for when you try to unlock the bootloader on the new Z Flip or Z Fold 3 smartphones, that you lose your camera accessibility. This is in addition to losing some of their Knox security features, Samsung locking it down, and a lot of people not necessarily being happy with that. But while Samsung was locking things down, EA is opening up some of their tech. Their accessibility tech is now being opened for other game developers to use without infringing on their patent. This would include things like their ping system, as well as some of their color blindness and low vision modes that they have in various video games, which I tell you, it felt weird to compliment EA this week. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was expecting that Razer software wasn't very good. Turns out that you can elevate to administrator privileges on Windows if you happen to plug in a Razer peripheral that has Synapse software that automatically gets installed, with a programmer showing on Twitter that they can in fact do this, and Razer has not yet responded as far as I'm aware. It was also shown that SteelSeries can do this, which then raises the question, is this an actual issue with the peripherals, or is this an issue with Windows where they need to patch this out? That needs to stop allowing peripherals that you plug in to install software, because it can create issues. We also got the unfortunate unfortunate news that it looks like TSMC is going to be raising the price of their CPU and GPU production. Their 7nm and 16nm wafer production are set to increase 10 to 20% by the end of this year, which likely will result in higher prices across the board. This is due to a lot of things like gross margin falling, as well as higher investment in new fabrication facilities and raw material prices going up. And Microsoft raised the price on their Xbox Series X, at least for the special Halo edition, them unveiling that, alongside the launch date of Halo Infinite, which is now going to be on December 8th. But just a reminder, it is launching without co-op mode, but we did get PC spec requirements for Halo Infinite. It's going to require an FX 8370 or an i5 4440 as the minimum spec on the CPU, but the GPU is a little bit harder than that, RX 570 or 1050 Ti. And then for recommended specs, it's an Ryzen 7 3700X or a 9700K. And then for the GPU, recommended specs 5700 XT or an RTX 2070. So it does seem like it'll take a little bit to run Halo. Microsoft also announcing that Xbox cloud streaming should be coming out to the Xbox consoles by holiday season, probably alongside the launch of Halo Infinite. Horizon Forbidden West got a release date this week, February 18th, 2022. The delayed game now has a date. It also got an update on the PlayStation 5 so that you can run the original game at 60 FPS. And there was a PlayStation 5 that's starting to unveil to the world that's 300 grams lighter because they changed the screw and the stand. Nothing internally, as far as we can tell, has changed. Intel, however, changing their mind about being in the high-end desktop market. It looks like X699 should come out with Alder Lake later this year. So Intel re-entering a market segment that they've stayed out of for a few years. AMD's Epic Milan X CPUs are being more well known. The highest flagship one should have 64 cores with 3D V cache, and it's expected to have anywhere between 15 and 20% performance than the current generation. It's already gone on sale at a specific retailer for roughly $10,000, which is about a 10% price jump from the previous generation of Epic CPUs. And the next generation of consumer AMD motherboards looks to be lacking in PCI Express 5.0. It looks like the 600 series motherboards are just going to only have PCI Express 4.0 as opposed to updating to the next generation. So that was this week in news. That's all the news that I wanted to get you caught up on. In case you missed any episodes of Hot News this week, try to condense it down into a quick little package for you to consume here on Saturday with your breakfast. Again, let me know what you think of this weekend edition of Hot News. This will not be taking away from our regular content. Rather, this is meant to be additive, so we're just curious to hear what you think. And with that being said, we have another experimental weekend video coming out for you tomorrow. Be sure to let us know what you think of it then, and I'll see you tomorrow for breakfast, my friends. Cheers.